Hey, I'm Dr. Patty Barch, a traditional naturopath and the owner of Naturally Unbridled Wellness in Onalaska, Wisconsin. So I thought I'd put together a quick video just to kind of give you some updates of information that I've learned since the last time I did an update about different things related to COVID and the COVID vaccines. So some of the information, of course, is anecdotal. It's my observations, my hypotheses, that sort of thing, but also some information that is being reported in the medical journals. So obviously, for those of you that this has hit your radar, you've seen that in the past few weeks, a documentary came out called, I think it's called Died Suddenly. And it's kind of a horrifying documentary. I'm not actually recommending it to people because it's all doom and gloom with no solutions, and it's a little bit propagandized. Especially, I think there's some gratuitous death shots in there that I get that they're driving the point home, but really I need to try to unsee that sort of thing. So I think that it was important that people, do some reporting, for crying out loud, about what's actually happening in the world. But I think they kind of just took it to the tabloid level, which is unfortunate because it's a legitimate thing that's going on and people need to know about it. So if you actually don't know anyone who has dropped dead in the past couple of years, more power to you, man. I'm jealous because it's been kind of heavy seeing all these people who, really young, healthy people who have dropped dead in their tracks in a lot of cases. So, that's been disconcerting. So there's a lot of buzz now on the internet about the blood clots, which I do believe is a legitimate thing. The pathologist that I follow has been reporting on this for a very long time, and that these are not typical blood clots, and typical blood thinners like Plavix and warfarin tend to not work on them because these clots are not formed through the normal clotting pathway. It's actually some kind of protein aggregation in the blood vessels, and so these are causing problems for some people. But I think one of the bigger things that is happening, and I just saw a video, if you don't follow Dr. John Campbell on YouTube, I would suggest doing so. He's a British guy, and he was a medical teacher in their medical schools in England for decades. And so he's an excellent teacher, and he will bring you through the anatomy, the physiology, the science, the data. Really great guy to follow on YouTube. It's Dr. John Campbell. So anyway, I pretty much watch a video from him a few times a week. And he did one recently. It was very fascinating. He reported on a scientific paper that had some histopathology of some heart tissue from people who dropped dead. So they had taken a collection. It was something like 35 people that found dead at home. And they did pathology, and they did pathology on the heart. So we have known for many months that myocarditis or pericarditis, which is heart inflammation, can be a side effect of these injections. That's well documented. Even the government establishments have put that out there, although they will tell you that it's rare and mild. The data doesn't suggest that it's as rare as they let it on to be, and cardiologists will tell you that there's really no such thing as mild myocarditis because heart muscle doesn't heal, it only scars. And so a little bit of inflammation in the heart over a long period of time can lead to scarring. But what the histopathology showed in this paper that Dr. John Campbell presented was that there was focal inflammation. So that means there were just tiny little spots on the heart where there was a little focus of inflammation that turned, there were white blood cells in there. So they show up differently on the histology stain. So there were little focal points of inflammation randomly throughout the heart. And why they believe this is a problem is because, like I said, heart tissue doesn't heal, it scars. And so any place that there was a little bit of inflammatory damage, you get a little bit of scar tissue developing. And then over time, the electrical conductivity of the heart is altered. And eventually it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. There's just enough scar tissue to change the electrical conductivity of the heart that it goes into ventricular fibrillation and leads to death shortly thereafter. So what people have been talking about for a long period of time is this subclinical myocarditis. So subclinical means you don't really have symptoms. You don't have chest pain, you don't have shortness of breath, you don't have pain in your left arm or anything, jaw pain, that sort of stuff. But you have this, you could call it asymptomatic heart inflammation. And then as that heart is scarring slowly over time, it can lead to these cardiac events where people die or have heart attacks or that sort of thing. So that's a legitimate thing that is happening. Anecdotally, so tangent from that, anecdotally, an observation that I've made in 3 cases now is a situation where the person gets their injections and doesn't seem to have any detrimental effects in the early stages. They seem fine until they get a virus. And now in all of these cases, in one of the cases it was the COVID virus, but in the other 2 cases that they were told that they had a virus, but they either tested negative or they didn't test or whatever. But what has happened, and this had been predicted, but what has happened is after the virus, there's a downward spiral into neurological symptoms. And so people had warned against this in the very early stages because they said there's never been a coronavirus vaccine that has made it through clinical trials because there's something called antibody-dependent enhancement that happens in every time they try to do a vaccine for the coronavirus, which means that the animals would do fine after the original injection, but then when they would challenge them by exposing them to the virus and they would catch the virus, then they would go into a downward spiral, get sick and die. So that's why after SARS or MERS, there was never a coronavirus vaccine that came out. So that was one of the reasons why we were waving the caution flag in the early stages when they were rushing these things out to market without any long-term data, that we were concerned that we would see that down the road when people were challenged with any kind of virus, that their immune system would go off the rails and create some additional problems. And, sadly, 2 of the 3 cases that have hit my radar have been pediatric cases with really severe neurological issues, extreme burning pain, and in one child, and then the other child, severe neurological issues that were originally diagnosed as tics, but a neurologist at a major hospital in Boston was like, these aren't tics, get that kid in my office. So, these are things that are concerning. Now, here's the thing. There's zillions of people out there now that have these things in their body against their better judgment or under full coercion or whatever, or fully willingly. But regardless, these things are starting to hit their radar. They're starting to have subsequent issues, immunological, reproductive, neurological, dermatology, dermatological, all of these things are really bubbling to the surface. And then people are like, well, how do I detox from this? So this is a challenge, right? Because you put genetic material into your body that has gotten into random cells throughout the body. I'm a fan of the weakest link hypothesis, in that wherever you had inflammation in the body, you would get more of this, this product that was injected into your arm, because Inflammation means increased blood supply. And so if you have something that gets into the blood supply, it's going to go to the tissues that have the increased blood supply. So some people will have different types of symptoms. So if you are already having fertility problems, they would be exacerbated. If you're having neurological problems, they would be exacerbated. This is just my hypothesis, and my observation. So anyway, a lot of people are asking how to get this out of your body. And really, we're still trying to figure that out. The flccc.net has some protocols, and they have some recommendations, some pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, and interventions. Fundamentally, what everybody should be doing, regardless of if you put that thing in your body or not, is get as freaking healthy as you can right now. So reduce your whole body inflammation. Stop putting inflammatory foods and beverages into your body. Never drink another soda. Stay away from high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Eat a whole foods diet. Get exercise. Drink freaking water. Have a spiritual practice, right? Those fundamental things, until we figure out how to restore your body back to balance, if possible, and maybe get this thing out of your body, which, by the way, they can't figure out when it's going to stop cranking out that inflammatory protein. They stopped looking, and every time they looked, it was still there, so they just stopped looking. So anyway, across the board, everybody needs to reduce their inflammation, increase their nutrient situation, make sure that you are getting enough vitamins and minerals and antioxidants into your diet, into your world, and eating an anti-inflammatory foods diet. And I mean, there's zillions of things on the internet that you can research. So that's just the latest update in some of the things that I've been observing in the science, in the clinic, and through talking to friends and colleagues, and just being an observer of the world. But hopefully, as I continue to make these little update videos, that we continue to learn more about how to help to restore and repair the body. But dude, get that inflammation down. It's the most important thing you can do. Okay? Peace out, peeps. Have a healthy day.